Hey everyone! So today we are chatting about safe and effective core work for prenatal and postpartum mamas. That was what won the poll that I put up earlier in the week. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, every Monday I put up a poll about what we're going to chat about on Wednesdays live. And this week, safe and effective core work won. So that's what we'll be chatting about. If you're new here, hi, welcome. I'm Devin. I am a yoga teacher. I'm a wife and a mama. I've been teaching for over 14 years, and I had a little guy last year in July, and my preschooler in 2021, also July. So yeah, before that I taught general classes in huge group settings as well as private, in people's homes and virtually and on demand and all the things. And then after having my kids, I wanted to help moms feel their best. So today we're talking about core work. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about my journey with that. So obviously, being a yoga teacher for as long as I have, I've known how to do, general yoga poses that are good for the core, as well as being a woman in general. I'm a millennial. We always wanted to get in that core work when I was a teenager because of media and everything telling you that's the only thing you want to work on. But they don't tell you how to work on it. So, I would always do what the teachers and stuff told me to do, but I never really understood how to fully engage my core. I think I just really didn't have, I don't easily connect to areas in my body. So when I'm doing strengthening, for example, here's a really good example for me. When a teacher or an instructor will say, engage your lats, until literally this year, I know where the lats are in my body, but I could never feel them engaging. So can you relate to that? If you can, drop an emoji, like one of these emojis, or say, yeah, that's me, or anything like that. I want to know if it's just me, if I've had to work especially hard on my mind-body connection, or if that's pretty common with other people. Oh yeah, and a side note, let me know if you're joining live or on the replay. I love to know when you guys are able to join. This is my time that I'm able to do because that's when my kitties are in bed. So yeah, anyways, I had a really hard time connecting. So, I was doing the shape, the general form of the poses, but I was not fully connecting because I didn't know how. And it never seemed like a big issue to me until I had my kids. So after having Izzy, my daughter, in 2021, it wasn't that big of an issue, but I definitely felt a little bit different in the core area postpartum. But she was only 6 pounds 6 ounces when she was born. I had Felix last year, and he was 8 pounds 11 ounces. I was way huger. I had Izzy at 37 weeks. I had him at 41 plus 6 weeks. So he was 5 weeks longer in my belly than she was, and over 2 pounds heavier. So I was way bigger, and labor and delivery and all that was really easy. My recovery was pretty easy as well, except for the fact that he had jaundice. So we were in the hospital for a little while after, 'cause I like to call it super jaundice. He had to be under 3 lights for 5 days, which is, I don't know if you have any experience with that, but that's way longer than the average. He had really high bilirubin numbers, but he's all good now. But in the hospital, like, I felt good. He didn't feel good. But like those hospital beds, you're leaned back. So when I was getting up, that's when I noticed I felt different. And typically I'd be like, whatever, it's just postpartum. I would minimize it. I'm sure a lot of you can relate. Let me know in the comments if you can. We tend to minimize and not put ourselves as a priority and think that we can handle things later on. We can tough it out. That's how moms and women tend to operate, even though it's not the most healthiest way. So I knew my initial thought was like, oh yeah, well, you just had a baby, like, chill. But I also was like, no, I didn't feel this way after Izzy. I shouldn't just chill with this. As soon as I have time, as soon as I can get out of the hospital, I got to deal with this. So, of course, I'm not going to go home and do crunches and sit-ups when I'm newly postpartum. I waited until I was cleared. I was very gentle with myself. That was a big priority to me. But he was a lot heavier than Izzy, and I wanted to be able to feel confident carrying him. And if she needed to be picked up, I wanted to feel confident carrying her. And core work is super important for that. It's not all just arm muscles, which I didn't have a lot of. That's something I have to always work on because my body holds on to flexibility, but not muscle. So anyways, when I was cleared too, I started doing safe and effective core work. And I noticed from like all the people I have taught that it's very common, especially for women, to not know how to engage the lower core. I think it's something that a lot of us can't connect to just easily. It's something you have to do over and over again until it connects, right? That's the way it was for me, and I certainly have seen that with numerous, like probably hundreds of students. So how do I know that's happening for people? Here's a really great example. In plank, having your butt in the air. And that is super common. It happens to most people, and it's because our bodies want to take the path of least resistance. So when that's happening, you can't really see it. Obviously, it doesn't feel easy. So you feel like, yeah, I'm really doing this. And so you're like, oh, I feel good right now. I'm going to do this every day, let's just say. But you don't see any results. And that gets frustrating. And then you abandon it. I know I've been there. I know that's just like, why would you keep spinning your wheels, right? So I wanted to create a program for people to be able to understand how to, engage their body correctly. So let's talk about core work today. I'm not going to give you an exercise right here as we're chit-chatting. I'm going to tell you a super important tip that you can use in basically every core exercise you want to do, but it's difficult and you have to really be able to connect to that area. So, you're doing, let's say, a sit-up, a crunch, a dead bug, or leg lowers and raises, or plank, or, any of these, the common denominator for all of these is that you will let your pelvis tilt in a way that your butt is sticking out. So that is the path of least resistance, and that is going to not engage your core properly. So the number one thing you want to think about every time you do any core exercise is to try to do the opposite of that. So you want to tilt your pelvis so that your tailbone is coming towards the front of your body, not sticking your butt out. So I call this proud butt versus scared butt. When your butt's in the air in a plank, it's a proud butt. But you want to have a scared butt in your plank pose. You want to have a scared butt in anything that you're doing with core engagement. And you want to have a proud butt when you're doing forward folds. But that's the funny thing, because then you go to do a forward fold, people tend to have a scared butt. So our body does like the opposite that it should be doing before we become really aware of what it is that we're supposed to be doing. So how can you sorry, there's cat hair everywhere because my cat was just here. What do you have to do to be able to connect to that pelvic tilt that I'm talking about? You can do a cat-cow pose. I find that this is the easiest way for people to get that tilt and to begin to create the building blocks for the muscle memory in your body to take that into any pose you do. So when you're doing cat pose, you want to think of your tailbone coming down towards the floor. That's going to engage your lower abdomen, and bonus, it engages your pelvic floor as well. When I think I said cat pose, right? I don't remember, but I want to clarify. Cat pose is when your tailbone is coming down and you are engaging your lower core and your pelvic floor. Cow pose is the opposite. That's when your chest is coming forward and your tailbone's coming up towards the sky. That is a natural opening of your pelvic floor. You want to be able to do both of these tilts to have full range of motion of your pelvic floor, and that's going to enable you to have proper function of your pelvic floor. So that's also a bonus that we all want, right? So yeah, you want to do that pose, and when you are in cat pose and your tailbone's coming down towards the floor, you want to really cement that feeling in your mind. Then you take that into your core exercises like plank. You're in plank, you're going to try to create a cat spine. It's not going to happen because you are in a position where your legs are straight back behind you. But if you imagine cat pose and really trying to bring your tailbone down towards the floor, you're going to feel a whole new engagement of your lower abdomen that you've never probably felt before. And your plank is going to feel probably so much harder than usual. But that's only for a short amount of time until you build those muscles back up. So that's a little bit easier when you're thinking of things like plank, because you are in the same spatial plane as your cat pose. When you're doing things like crunches and anything on your back, it might break your brain a little bit, but you want to be able to find that same thing. So you're thinking of cat pose. So if you're on your back, now you're thinking of your tailbone coming up towards the sky. And it's a lot harder on your back. I will preface that, especially if you're doing something like leg lowers and raises. The tendency in those is you let your legs come down and then your back pops off of the floor. So that would be not engaging your core. So what you want to do in that pose, in that exercise, is tailbone up towards the sky, and try to keep it locked like that as your legs come down. And that is, it's a lot harder, and your legs might not come down as far, but it is more optimal. It's safer for your back, it's safer for your core, it's safer for your pelvic floor. So you might hear things where people say like sit-ups are not safe for your pelvic floor, so people have stopped doing them. And you know, if it doesn't feel safe, certainly don't do it. But the reasoning for that is that people cannot find that engagement, and then that's what makes it unsafe. So if you go back to the thing I was saying about cat and cow, if you are in cow pose, your pelvic floor is doing a natural opening. So if you're doing a sit-up and you begin to have a proud butt, your tailbone is not up towards the sky, it's coming back down towards the floor, then you're having a natural opening of your pelvic floor while your upper core is engaging. It's putting too much pressure on your pelvic floor. And that's why you'll hear some people saying sit-ups are not good for your pelvic floor. And that's true if you are not engaging your lower core properly. So certainly don't do sit-ups if you know you can't keep that engagement of your tailbone coming towards the front of your body, tailbone coming up towards the sky. If you can keep that engagement and you love doing sit-ups, then certainly go ahead and do it. But you want to make sure that you are not finding your cow pose in your sit-up. You want your cat pose in your sit-up. So try to remember any core exercise you do ever is cat pose. So you have your tailbone coming towards the front of your body. You're engaging your lower abdomen. You're engaging your pelvic floor. Everything is safe. And when you are engaging and everything is safe, guess what? It's more effective. So what does that mean? If you're doing leg lowers right now, for example, this pose where you're lying on your back and your legs are coming down. If you're doing this and you get your legs all the way down, but your back is popped all the way off the floor, then that's not effective. That can be tough on your pelvic floor. If you get that engagement in your mind and you're able to keep your entire back glued to the floor and your tailbone coming up towards the sky, and instead of your legs coming all the way to the floor, they only come 45, guess what? That is more effective than letting your back pop up and your legs coming all the way down. So don't get it in your head that I have to have my legs touch all the way down for this to even work. If you have the proper engagement, your legs don't have to come down as far, as long as you are keeping the proper engagement. And you will eventually want to make it harder when your muscles get stronger. But, you know, don't push yourself before you're ready, before you've created the muscle memory and the foundations for a stronger practice. You know, I'll give you an example with my arms. I mentioned earlier that my arms don't hold on to strength. My body holds on to flexibility. So, when I knew that I was going to have a heavy little guy after he was born, as soon as I was able to start lifting weights, I had to start with 5 pounds, and that was heavy for me. And that might sound like crazy or dumb coming from a yoga teacher, somebody who's practiced for 15 plus years, but it's the truth. I couldn't do a bicep curl with more than 5 pounds until I built myself back up. And now I certainly can do more than 5 pounds, but you know, I wasn't going to be like letting my ego get in the way and being like, oh my God, I should be able to lift more than 5 pounds. I couldn't, so I had to work on that, right? So if your core is not ready and you can't get your feet all the way down without your back popping up, don't go that far down. and you will be able to start building a stronger foundation. So, with all of that said, if you have questions about that, please feel free to comment below or DM me. I'd love to chat and help you figure that out. I have kind of talked about how I wanted to create a program to help people, moms, prenatal and postpartum, find this connection. So I thought I would speak about that a little bit. I created a prenatal yoga program when I was pregnant. So I have videos for each trimester. So things that things that you feel like you need to work on for each trimester. For example, in the third trimester, there are poses about preparing your body for labor and delivery. And first trimester, there's stuff about helping you to combat anxiety and stuff like that. And there is a section that is core work related for prenatal mamas. That's something that you don't want to be doing something like sit-ups when you are pregnant, but you want to be able to have a connection to your body there, because that really helps when you are having a baby. And that is that program. There is 12 videos. It's all on demand. There are breathing practices as well, which again, different practices for each trimester for things that come up in that, as well as meditations. And that's something I thought would be very valuable for prenatal women, because you're not always able to find the time to go out to a studio to learn. And sometimes they make it like maybe a little too easy or a little too hard because the teacher who's teaching is typically not pregnant. And then so all of that is priced at $197, and it is a lifetime membership. So if you decide to take another trip on the pregnancy train, you can always go back to those videos. And I am going to be doing a live version for postpartum. So it's going to be the same thing, $197. And there's going to be, obviously there's not trimesters to your postpartum, but the thing I love about my upcoming postpartum program is that most postpartum yoga is baby and mommy, and that is a lovely way to bond. It's fun, it's cute. You sometimes are able to connect with other mommies, and that's lovely, but it doesn't focus on the mom. It's more of a bonding time for mommy and baby. So my program focuses on the mom. I think I'll be doing like a couple of classes that are mommy and baby, because like I said, it is fun and it is a nice bonding time. But I want to focus on the issues that a postpartum mother is facing, just like we were speaking about today with core work. I want to be able to help moms be able to connect back to their core, maybe in ways they never have even pre-pregnancy, which I have to admit, I was one of those until I got a lot more training and a lot more practice. And then I was like, eureka. So I want to save you that time. I don't want you to have to do as much training and practice as I had to do to understand that. But the fun thing, if you've hung on this long, is that I'm going to be giving a discount if you've watched the video and you are interested. So if that is the case, comment prenatal or postpartum, and I will DM you some more information about that. And we can chat and go from there. So that's all I have for tonight. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for joining me whenever you did or will join me. And look out for the poll coming up later in the week about the tutorial and about next week what we're going to chat about on our Wednesday live. All right. I hope you had a great time and we'll chat again soon. Bye for now.